はウッドストックスクールオブアーツのバイスプレジデントであり、先生でもあるナンシー・キャンベルさんのスタジオを訪問しようと思っています。彼女の描く絵は光と影と描写でその場の空気感が伝わってくる素晴らしい作品です。今日は彼女の創作の様子をちょっと覗かせてもらおうと思っています。Hello Nancy, thank you so much for having me today.
Hi Mimi, it's a pleasure. Always a pleasure to see you.
So Nancy, how long have you been painting?
I've been painting long. So I think seriously painting probably from 25. I just turned 71, so that's 46 years. But as a kid, I was always drawing. That's how I'd amuse myself. So it's always been in there, but actually purposefully starting it when I was 25.
And you never stopped. You
Never
raised your
stopped.
3 boys and 3 kids.
Right. I mean, I sort of had lull periods, I guess, but now that I have the studio here, it's like I paint almost every day, and I just really love it.
So your studio is so beautiful, full of your paintings. And could you tell me about your studio?
The studio is, I think, 2 years old only, and before I was working in a bedroom upstairs, maybe about half the size or so. So this is the first time I've actually had a dedicated space that was purpose-built to be a studio. Mm-hmm. And it makes a huge difference. I mean, you've been here, you just, I can close the doors. I have a porch to look out on the backyard. It's just great to be able to just come in here. I can leave a mess. There's no mess today, of course, because you're coming. But it's just nice. You can start where you left off. It's here. I come here and I'll read or whatever. But it's just really important to have your own workspace.
What's your favorite part of your studio?
Well, the whole thing is my favorite part, but probably my most favorite part is the door that goes out onto the nice big porch. It's nice to have your own little entrance, and that's like on a nice day my morning coffee spot.
Very nice. So I always love your painting. Shadow as if it's dancing. It's so beautiful.
Thank you.
So could you tell me about your art?
Okay, I just love painting the landscape. I think maybe because I grew up around here, and some of my earliest memories, wasn't really early, probably 6 or 7, was walking in the woods with my sister and my father. And I don't know, somehow it imprinted itself, because I grew up for 5 years in Brooklyn. So who knows what would have happened if we stayed there. But I've always really reacted to what's around me. So growing up here in Saugerties, always seeing the mountains and the woods and the river, I think that somehow imprinted on me, and I just love looking at the landscape. And so that's what you see here is, that's what affects me, so that's what my art has always been about. I guess for me it's a sense of place, and I usually need to be in a place a while. Like if we went to Ireland, for instance, I had a residency for 10 days, and it was incredibly beautiful. I mean, magnificent, I would say, the skies, but it was grand. It was super grand, and I did little tiny drawings of it because I'm more of an intimate landscape painter, so it takes me a while to get a feel of a place, and I think what works for me, and maybe for people who see the art, is my feeling of a connection to a place. So I think that's what I aim for, consciously or subconsciously. It's a place I love to see. For me, the most important thing is the light of the subject, whether it's the landscape or if it's an interior. That's the thing that I like to try to capture, I guess, is the feeling of light. Well, I'm struck by an image or a feeling of a place, and there are several ways I do it. Sometimes, if it's practical, I'll just take a photo, because it seems like a lot of the scenes that I like to paint happen to be from a street. Other times I do a drawing. Many times I'll do a drawing, and then from that drawing I can get a whole bunch of paintings. And for instance, like these paintings of Ireland, I didn't paint outside because the weather wouldn't permit it. And so I did these little tiny sketches.
I see.
If you can see them. So I did, and these really helped me to make a bunch of paintings. And these were done on location, and usually, even though it's a tiny sketch, it takes me probably about 40 minutes or sometimes more to get it. This just was a couple of minutes. It was a cow that was standing along the street. And it's sort of a complicated landscape in Ireland. You've got these beautiful skies and all these hills. But anyway, this is kind of a process.
So, are there anybody or any artist that influenced you in your art?
There are so many that I won't tell you all of them right now. But probably three of my favorites. I'll go with three. Edouard Vuillard was one of the Nabi. He's French, was French. Actually got me really started in oil painting when I saw a show of theirs. Another one who I just absolutely love is Fairfield Porter, an American painter. Really, I think totally, when you look at his work, it just seems so American as opposed to, say, Vuillard or the French people. And then my current heroine is Lois Dodd. And I just went to see a show of hers in Connecticut, and it was blown away. She's 95 years old and still painting. And she takes little intimate scenes and blows them up. Whereas I take giant scenes and shrink them down. So, like, you know, we're opposites. But I love her work. Very simple.
I see. Thank you. So, Nancy, why do you paint?
I just paint. I mean, it's always been there. I think it's just a part of who I am. It's not something that I think about really. I just know that I always wanted to paint, and I think it's maybe a way of communicating the way I feel about what surrounds me. It's just, if I don't paint for a few days, I get a little antsy. It's just a part of who I am and how I express myself.
And then when you're painting, what kind of feel do you get in doing it?
When you're painting, the beauty of it is you don't really get a kind of feel. I mean, it's sort of like a meditation. You don't think about, oh, I am Nancy and I am doing this, or what to worry about next, or, politics or anything. That kind of just falls away, and you just literally, it's like meditation, because you're here, but you're not aware of things. You're only doing what you're doing. If it works. If it doesn't work, that's a different story. When the painting kind of starts painting itself, when you're not consciously thinking, I have to do this here, or I have to put this color here, when you get to that point where it sort of tells you what to do itself, the painting, that's when it really works the best. That doesn't happen that often, where your consciousness takes over without you actually, telling it what to do. Right. But I think that's the goal probably with most people who create, who play music. It's all the same. You kind of get into the zone where you're a meditative state, I think. And I think the best paintings of anybody are the ones where the artist is absent. When you see the final work, like if the artist somehow is absent from the painting, the work speaks for itself. And I think whether it's an abstract painting or a realistic painting, I think it's the loss of the ego in that work that actually makes it a good painting.
ペインティングは瞑想することのようなもの。自我を忘れ、その行為に没頭した時に作られた作品が素晴らしいものになるという彼女の言葉が心に残ったスタジオツアーになりました。